Hello my friends and welcome back to my channel. Thanks to a very great supporter I was able to play the closed beta of Skull and Bones, and so far my feelings are a little bit mixed about this game. But before we go any further, let me say one thing. Please keep in mind that I'm not a professional gameplay tester and I'm not a professional gameplay reviewer or whatever you want to call this. I'm focusing more on the technical side in games, and of course I'm focusing on HDR in games. And this is what this video is about. We're looking at the graphic, we're looking at the visuals, and of course we're looking on HDR. But in regards of HDR, I was not very lucky. But no worries at all. I am not talking about that HDR was not working at all. It was working just fine. I'm talking about that I choose to test the game on the PC. And usually I'm using Reshade and Lilium's HDR analyzer to test HDR in games, but in this case it wasn't possible because as soon as I installed Reshade, the game wouldn't load. And that's why, unfortunately, I can't show you much in regards of HDR. I mean, don't get me wrong, the whole video is recorded in HDR. I'm talking about the HDR analyzers, what I'm doing usually. It's just not working in this case. So what I've done is I used my old method to analyze HDR, but again, this is very, very basic, and it actually just shows the maximum peak brightness in games. But what I can tell you, at least there is HDR support. How good the HDR support is from a technical point of view, I can't tell you right now. From my point of view, what I can see actually, it doesn't look too bad. So let's talk about performance, and I tested the game on two PCs. My first PC, my main PC, is a AMD 7950X3D combined with a 4080 and 64GB of RAM. And my second PC is a 5950 AMD CPU combined with a 3070 and 32GB of RAM. And the good news is that I never at any point experienced any performance issues with the game. I mean, obviously my 4080 is able to run the game with 4K and highest or ultra settings. I mean 4K resolution, but with DLSS quality enabled. So at the end it's not native 4K, but it looks just awesome. And I never experienced any dip below 60 FPS because all my recording, what you can see, is actually from my main PC. And as far as I can tell, I recorded with fixed 60 FPS and I haven't seen any stuttering. And also on my second PC, I had no issues in regards of performance. I mean, obviously, I wasn't able to play this in 4K or almost 4K with DLSS quality, but 1440p and DLSS quality and ultra settings or highest settings was no issue for this PC. So I haven't done a full technical or performance analysis at this stage because I like to wait until the game is fully released. But so far I have to say the closed beta runs without any issues, at least not for me and at least not on my two PCs. So I never experienced any connection issues, I never experienced any connection loss, I never experienced any performance drops actually. So in regards of the technical point of view, in regards of visual quality, in regards of performance, in regards of stability, so far this makes a really good impression. So in this part of the video I was going to talk about gameplay, but again I remembered that I'm not a professional gameplay reviewer, so I tried my very best and I just failed. So what I'm going to do is I just talk about the main aspect from the game: fighting, gunfights or artillery fights or cannon fights, whatever you want to call it. And I had actually a lot of fun, but at the end I found it's very repetitive. It's very similar all the time, so I'm not quite sure if the final version of the game is a little bit more interesting. I would guess so, because you have to consider I just had four or 5 hours to play the game, and I'm not a professional gamer, so I missed, of course, a lot of time, let's say like this, to improve my ship and stuff like that, because I have to admit I was sailing very often just on the sea because I liked this feature actually very much. Just sail around, discover a couple of things, and yeah, of course, fighting. And what I found is also very interesting is you have to fight sharks and crocodiles as well. I found this actually very, very funny, but again, after 10 times, it was just repetitive. I don't know if this is continuing like it is in the final version. I just hope there is more differences in regards of what you have to do, what you can do. So far it was interesting, but even with the 4 or 5 hours, very much the same all the time. So let's talk about controls in this game, and you have to understand that I love my controller. I'm usually not a big mouse and keyboard fan unless I'm playing games like NY 1800 or Civilization, but usually I stick to my controller, and the same counts in this game. I just loved my Xbox controller in this game. It was very easy to control the ship. It was very easy actually to control my man on the land, so it was no problem at all. After some time I knew all the buttons, what I have to press, so very straightforward and also very responsive actually. I haven't had any problems at all to learn the controls and to control my ship or everything else in the game. So let's talk about sound, and I think we should do this more often because usually we're just focusing on HDR or visual qualities in games, but in my opinion, and I'm not going to say that sound is as important as really good graphics in a game, but just consider or just think about what would be Dead Space or Alan Wake 2 without a proper sound support.
Turn us around! What are you waiting for?
All hands on deck! To your battle station!
This jump!
Applied and sinker! Captain! Big bad buster! They are done!
Enemy attack!
I can see them below us!
And in my opinion, the sound effects and the music both are working very well in Skull and Bones. So I never had the feeling that something is missing, or I never asked myself why are they playing now this type of music, because it doesn't fit right now. So it was just, I wouldn't say perfect, and I'm not going to say that the sound and music is outstanding. It just fits the game. Okay, my friends, so what is my first impression in regards of visual quality, HDR, controls, sound, and gameplay? And my feelings are a little bit mixed. When it comes to gameplay, they're really mixed because I just hope that there will be more. But again, it's just 4 hours or 5 hours what I played the game. So we can't expect much, okay? And I'm very sure that I wasted a lot of time just cruising on the sea because it was just beautiful. And this brings me to the visuals, because the visuals in this game, I really like them. I absolutely think that they are gorgeous on a high-end PC. And yes, I know we have some issues with textures and assets are not loading, and some textures are popping in and something like that. So it's not perfect, but overall I think visual quality in this game is on a very high level. And then we have the controls, and I mentioned already that I played the game just with my controller because I'm not a big fan of mouse and keyboard in games like that. And again, I had no issues at all. The controls are easy to learn, the buttons are easy to learn, and the controls are very responsive. So in regards of controlling my ship, controlling my man on the land, no issues and no complaints at all. The sound effects, the music, and the sound quality in general, in my opinion, above average, which doesn't mean that they are bad. No, quite the opposite. So I think they're really fitting the game. I'm just thinking also it's nothing outstanding, nothing what you wouldn't expect from a game like that. So in regards of sound, I can't complain. I can't think about anything what they should do differently. I like the deep sound actually when you get hit by a cannonball. And also I have to say, all the sound effects are very, very detailed and very clear to hear actually where something is coming from. So again, in regards of sound, actually pretty good job. And then last but not least, we have HDR, but it's a little bit hard for me actually to do a review now as I'm doing usually, because again, I can't use Reshade, I can't use Lilium's HDR analyzer. But what I found is, from my own experience, I do like HDR in this game. It's probably a typical Ubisoft HDR implementation where you have very nice looking specular highlights, where you have probably no HDR color space in use, but again, this is not a must because the game is very powerful in regards of colors, what I found. And yeah, in regards of the HDR black level floor, it's very hard to tell because most of the time the game is actually very bright. And yeah, it's not a Dead Space or Alan Wake 2 where we must have perfect HDR black level floor to actually have a perfect contrast. So in regards of contrast, I couldn't find any issues so far, apart from some intro sequences where you can clearly see that there is HDR black level rays, or let's say like this, the HDR black level floor is not where it is supposed to be, but that's just maybe complaining on a very high level, because if it is just just in cutscenes, it really doesn't matter that much, to be very honest. So HDR so far, what I can see from my own experience, make a okay impression, but probably it's just a normal Ubisoft HDR implementation. Okay, my friends, so that's it for this video. Please let me know in the comment section, how do you like the game? Do you like the gameplay? What do you think about the visual quality or the graphic in the game? Do you have you experienced any performance issues? What do you think about the sound? What do you think about the controls? And yeah, what about HDR in this game? Do you like it, or you maybe don't like it? So let me know. I'm looking forward for your opinion. Thank you very much for watching me, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.